Hey there troops, it's me TheTacticalBrit, and it looks like Battlefield 5 is making some progress in some really positive directions, and this is good stuff to talk about. Naturally, it has been a while since the base game has really had any news, and it's been a while really since Battlefield's been relevant, I'm afraid. Since Firestorm released, there's not been much after. We're waiting on maps. There have been the new elite skins, but ultimately cosmetic content is not the same as something like actual DLC content, like maps, modes, and everything in between. And yeah, it's really just sort of been a bit of a void and a bit of a wait at the moment. But we've had some really positive news come out of DICE recently, and I'm excited to talk about it because I think it could lead the game in the long term over the next few months in a very positive direction, and something that will bring much more players back to the franchise and potentially just be a good game once it's finally got a few more maps in it. So to begin with, it's been confirmed that there is now going to be two roadmaps, one for Firestorm and one for the base game. So Firestorm is actually receiving a pretty solid level of commitment. It's not just going to be this thing that's dismissed every once in a while, not this thing that's only ever updated every once in a while. It looks like they're actually committing towards some form of roadmap, which is really positive to hear. They've actually recently updated a few things in the game, like the number of armor plates you can carry, that's now gone up, and a few other bits here and there. And they've also changed the end of round screen for when people win, which is something that the mode definitely needed. It needed to be a little bit more exciting. So it looks as though we're going to have some serious Firestorm development come further down the line, which is of course vital to most Battle Royale games, and that's something that definitely deserved a lot of praise. But what's really exciting is that some more information has been confirmed about the maps that are already coming, as well as potentially maps in the future that are coming, and some comments from DICE devs, and this is really positive stuff and looks like it's heading in a really positive direction. So of course, to begin with, in May we have the Mercury map. This is very much known and anticipated. We also have in June the Outpost mode and the 5v5 mode and maps potentially. It could be one or two maps for the urban mode, I presume, for a 5v5 map. The 5v5 mode in itself is going to require some kind of custom maps to make it work, so that's quite exciting to see. Then of course in July we have the Mauritius map, which is going to be a brand new place to be, and in August it's speculated that there will be a urban map as well. So we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish maps by August, which I think is a very healthy number. We're finally starting to see the kind of monthly / bi-monthly updates of content that I think a lot of people wanted to see in the first place. And then by September and October we've got the Pacific Theatre, which is incredibly exciting. You know, the Pacific Theatre in September / October is going to be huge. There's going to be lots of content potentially. We're hopefully seeing 2 to 3, maybe more maps if we're lucky. I'm not going to put a number on it because you just never know. Uniforms, weapons, and everything in between. And some of the data mining has already pushed in that direction that we are going to see a pretty big dump of new content coming in September and October. But 5 maps in the lead up to it is quite healthy too. And now I really think this is basically making up for the void that we've had. I think the void that we saw was a combination of the live service not being very well prepared by DICE, and also a combination that the game released just before Christmas, meaning that development completely stopped over the Christmas period and New Year period, and then had to restart when they got back. And that doesn't leave, you know, a lot of time for things to actively be in development. There was a lot of stop-start, and I can kind of understand how that situation has arisen. And ultimately, this will be a big learning curve for future Battlefield titles. But what's really exciting about all of this is a tweet from a DICE developer that says that there are currently more maps in simultaneous development than there ever has been for a Battlefield DLC. So considering the average Battlefield DLC features 4 to 5 maps, this effectively confirms that there is more than 4 or 5 maps in simultaneous development at DICE. Now some of those are going to be the ones that have previously been mentioned, which looks to be in and around the 4 or 5 mark, and some of those will of course be the ones in September and October. Now, this raises some big questions about the game, but I also think, just in general, it's a very positive direction, a very positive step, and, you know, I'm really glad that this commitment towards the game is being pushed. I honestly do believe that Battlefield 5 is a great title. I think it's faced a lot of hurdles, but I don't think it's necessarily down and dead. We've seen with things like Star Wars Battlefront 2, which was recently the most high-sold game in Australia for PlayStation, that turnarounds are very much possible, and any game that did have a bad rep or didn't have the best of launch can eventually become something quite positive and quite good. And I think with things like Firestorm, we've had a very good sort of first step towards what that might look like and what that could be. Now, with these potential maps in development, the big question is just how many people are working on Battlefield 5, because previously it didn't look like it was all that many, and it looked like a lot of people had headed on to the new project. But it now appears that a large majority of DICE seem to be working on Battlefield 5 now. We've got multiple developers making maps, multiple developers making cosmetics, multiple developers fixing bugs, and some working on Firestorm as well. So it seems that there is a very strong commitment, and I think the kind of commitment people were expecting from this live service now happening with Battlefield 5. And I think, naturally with everything that's been and gone, and the fact that the game doesn't feel like it's had a lot of support in the past and has been somewhat disappointing, this is the beginning of what hopefully will be the Star Wars Battlefront 2 style turnaround, where, for me as a core community member, I have enjoyed the game, but I need new content, new maps, things like that would be just great to play on. That would be very much appreciated, and new theaters. But just for the average person who didn't give Battlefield 5 a chance, to come back and see all of this free content and how much strides the game has made both cosmetically and in terms of bugs fixing will be really good. Now, imagine if you're a player who's decided to pick up the game in October or September when the Pacific Front DLC releases for £30 odd, maybe $39, and you get all of these new maps, all of these weapons that previously weren't in the game, potentially a couple of vehicles in the new Pacific Theater as well, and you get the contribution that there is going to be more content coming as well, and you also have the Battle Royale. That's the kind of package people were looking for when the game launched, but now this far down the line, I think it makes it quite impressive. And I think if Battlefield head to E3/EA Play and promote a trailer for the Pacific Front releasing later this year, or new content coming on the way, and say, hey guys, by the way, we've been hard at work at this is where Battlefield's at now, and this is what we're doing, that's going to be a really good thing. I think that's what's going to get people back on board, because they did something very similar with Star Wars. They said, look, here's this roadmap, here's what we're working on, here's what we want to bring you. They committed more developers to the service, and now it's one of the highest selling games on PlayStation in Australia, which is by no means a small population, and definitely attributes the game to some success. And that's not to mention people who are potentially buying cosmetics on Star Wars Battlefront, which is probably a big number too. And I think this is something we're going to see on Battlefield, and I really hope this is the beginning of a new beginning for Battlefield, and I really hope that Battlefield 5 gets the commitment that we all kind of expected it would get, and in my opinion, the commitment it deserves as a game, because it does make some very positive changes to the franchise. It just needs a bit more investment, in my opinion. So troops, that's about it from me today. It's nice to talk about something positive on the Battlefield franchise. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again in another video.